An AI tool designed specifically for midlife women? I'm listening. Stephanie, I can't wait to learn about what you are building for us. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. And I'm glad you said us because I'm right in there with you.
Yes, well, I assume that's probably why you're so interested in doing this. That's why I have a
Nothing,
midlife podcast.
right? Nothing like proximity to the problem to really motivate you.
Right. Be your own target audience. It definitely helps. Well, I want to start by talking about the current landscape. And I know just from my own personal usage patterns and what my friends are saying that a lot of us Google and we talk to friends when we're looking for information about health and hormones and caring for aging parents and career changes and parenting and just all the things that are coming at us right now. But increasingly, we're also using AI tools like ChatGPT and Claude to
Yeah.
help gain even more information. And what I want to know from you is how do you think these current tools that we're using are underserving midlife women?
Well, I want to start by saying just take a step back and just acknowledge that these AI tools are extraordinary. I mean, think about what we have at our fingertips in terms of access to information. But I think that's one of the important distinctions is that these AI tools, not unlike what you said, Google and search, are kind of giving you information and making it much more readily available, but the ability to take that information and personalize it is really out of the reach of what AI tools can do, mostly because they're designed based on history. They're gathering all the information that's out there and regurgitating it and simplifying it and sending it back to us. So what that means is it's recasting existing biases. So it's the difference between information and really having a tool that can give you insight. And we'll get
Hmm.
into that. But that's one of the trade-offs with AI. It's really hard for it to be personalized. It's really hard for it to be understanding you specifically. It's much more for looking at things in averages and deterministically.
Okay, so the opportunity that we've uncovered here is more personalization specifically targeted to midlife women. Why do you think midlife women deserve, well, deserve is not the word I want to use. Obviously, we deserve it. Why do you think midlife women warrant their own tool? This doesn't mean they're not out there, but I haven't seen AI tools customized for other audiences like this.
One of the biggest reasons is midlife is really one of the most complex times in life. And it's definitely one of the more undersupported seasons for women because think about it. You're going through menopause generally. The extent you have children, they're leaving, so there's a huge transition there. To the extent your parents are still there, they're aging. There's all kinds of things going on in the work culture that really center around ageism and bias. And there's been a lot written about how women really age out much more quickly of the workforce. So you have all this confluence of events that are happening that are much more unique to midlife women than broader audiences. Not that other audiences don't deserve a tool, but from our perspective, it was one that we felt it had the most acute and an intense set of confluence of events. And at the same time, women have had the least support, right? Women's health research has been underinvested in. Financial planners don't really gear themselves to women. So all of that, sort of the combination of the supply side and the demand side seemed like a really good place to start.
And I can attest to feeling underserved at this stage of life because as you said that, I'm thinking I did feel pretty supported in my 20s. Let's talk about from the career standpoint. I had mentors who were guiding me and teaching me and helping me. And then when I went through the process of dating, there's always people there available to help you date, right? Coaches and matchmakers and the things. And then you get married and you get pregnant. And I felt pretty supported by our current health system through my pregnancies. I felt like people knew what they were doing. And then you do kind of get dropped off. Like people don't know much about perimenopause or menopause, or we're learning a lot more now, thank goodness. And career wise, you're at the point where you're the mentor, you're the boss, and you kind of feel dropped off. Like what happened to my mentor, my boss, the guidance that I was looking for. So I can definitely relate to what you're saying. And I do want to poke a little bit more at the personalization you were talking about, because aren't we able to personalize chat a little bit? For example, I use it to help me with marketing this podcast, and I've taught it, this is how I talk, this is my tone, these are my people, this is what they're feeling. And I feel like we're in a pretty good rhythm, Chat and I, right now, as far as pumping out some marketing content. So it kind of feels personal to me. I feel like if someone else just opening up chat for the first time saying, help me talk to midlife women, it wouldn't talk in the same way. So what exactly do you mean when you say we can't personalize these tools?
Well, I think that's a really great distinction. And I think it's a lot of the reason is what you're really trying to personalize. So here's an example. In the workforce, if hiring manager is looking to hire someone and they look at what are the pay grades that they're going to hire this person for, how much are they going to pay them? If they put into chat or Claude or any of the LLMs, I'm hiring a woman for this position versus I'm hiring a man for this position, or you just even put the name in and it implies a woman, it will literally give the woman 80 cents on the dollar. Why is that? Because the historic corpus of everything that's been in there reflects what women have been paid. So think about it in terms of drugs or medications. Most of the research has been done around men. So when women search for what do I do when I have these symptoms and I feel like I'm having a heart attack, the chatbot could say, this is an example. Well, those aren't traditional symptoms of a heart attack. Well, women experience symptoms for a heart attack or stroke differently. So all of that knowledge is literally now being invested in and built. So that's one big part of it. The other part is really that when you think about personalization, it's much more sophisticated than you think it is. So here's an example. You go to your doctor and you say, I'm not sleeping well and I want to be on hormone therapy because the symptoms are when you don't sleep well and you have night sweats, that's what you should do. And chat would say, yes, those are the symptoms. That's what you should do. And that it would be sort of a recommendation. Well, if you have a more personalized conversation and you talk to your physician or to a more personalized tool, it might gather other parts of your life. Oh, you're thinking about leaving your job. You're concerned about your mom. So it's hard to really anticipate that as you're engaging with chat. I mean, you can definitely build that capability, but it's not designed to think about you holistically as your physician or a trained model would. So those are some examples of how a model that's trained around women can really be much more specific and personalized, and one that anticipates your whole self.
Okay, so the wheels are turning. Tell us about your tools. And does your tool do these things for us?
Well, that was the mission we were on. Well, actually, the mission wasn't really about AI. I mean, I just roll back the clock a year and a half, 2 years ago. And when we started this, I think we probably could all agree that AI was, even though it was not in its infancy, AI has been around for decades. But in terms of its ability to be a tool that was accessible to a broad population, it was really just gestating. It was just starting. So when we embarked on this, we were basically saying, look, we feel that women's dignity should be honored. And the reason we used the word dignity was we felt that it's more than just equity. I think equity has been a really challenging word. Not that it isn't deserved, but I think it's been co-opted as a zero-sum game. If someone gets something, it's at someone else's expense. So this whole journey for us started with women, particularly at midlife, when they are invisible and unseen. How do we create a dignified experience that honors them? So that's where we started. And then we realized, wow, no one's really looking at the whole person. So as we started to do this, we realized AI allowed us to create a very specific model. We feed our model information and insights that are really based on women's research, women's analysis, women's evidence, not not the broader population. So we've culled it down. Is it perfect? No. And is it complete? No, but it is growing. And as more and more research and more content comes to play, we screen it for, is this evidence-based and is it women informed? So that's our first place. And that allows us to have a differentiated model versus the large language models, which are more broad.
Oh my God, so fascinating.
But it's a lot of work.
Well, yeah, first of all, I'm like, oh my God, how do you even find all that and just direct it in there? But also, to your point earlier, it's a lot and it's not enough. Like, there's not a ton of this information available just for women, but to have the ability to access just that is so fascinating. And yeah,
But the
I want to
exciting
know
part,
more.
I mean, the exciting part is that women are growing in power. I think that is so important to remember. The economic influence of women is accelerating. It's not just growing, it's accelerating. One of the things you mentioned earlier, there aren't a lot of resources for late career women. Well, think about it. A generation ago, there weren't any late career women. There weren't even any career women. So sort of the models for that didn't exist. So now we have all these women that have been in the workforce or have done some sort of work. 51% or more of the college educated graduates are women. There's a huge wealth transfer in aggregate moving to women. Women are living longer. So all of that makes women a really powerful economic force. And I think that's going to accelerate research, medicine.
Here's hoping.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we have to do.
Okay, it will. It will. I want to keep talking about your tool because I'm already fascinated. So we already know we've culled down and the information is checked to be evidence-based, women informed. What else? Once you log in, there's an onboarding sequence that is different than when you first log into these other tools. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so we wanted to have a way for people to have a conversation, but honestly, not for it to be creepy conversation. Have your guide there. So we developed Sophie and we trained Sophie, and Sophie's not there to be your companion. She's really there to ask you the right questions. So we created an onboarding and we sort of balanced it. We didn't want it to go on forever because we felt that we have to build people's trust. Just like going out to coffee with someone, your first conversation isn't getting into all the details of their life, but you build that trust. So we designed our onboarding to be just enough to give us a sense that we could feedback what you were saying and synthesize it into some sense of order around your whole life and give you a map. So that's the first part. There's a series of onboarding questions, which are really conversational. There are some check the box, but most of it is having a conversation with Sophie so that she can start to think and figure out, where are your pain points? What do you really want to focus on? And she confirms that with you, and she gives you a visualization of it, like a roadmap, not a set of tasks, not a checklist, because we have enough of those, but really just here's where you are, and does it feel right?
Can
And
you
you
give
have
us can you give us some examples of these onboarding questions so people understand?
So an onboarding question could be, as it relates to your health, are you getting the resources that you need? Where do you feel that you need support? Are there areas where you're getting good support? And you can answer that. Yes, I'm really getting great resources around menopause. There's been a lot out there, but I'm really nervous because my mom has Alzheimer's and I really don't know much about how to engage with her. So that might be a question. Or how is your work environment? How are you feeling about your work? What are you thinking in terms of your career? What's working for you? What's not working for you? And you can start to have that conversation with her. Similarly with finance. So it's really, I wouldn't say open-ended, but kind of focusing in on those key dimensions of your life, trying to figure out what are the areas that you're seeking insight, information, resources, and tools, and where are you okay? And then she can start to triangulate between those areas and combine that into a visualization. And then here are some tools and resources that we think could be useful in this scenario. And then you can continue to have that conversation.
And so this information presumably stays with the person. So any project that you open with Sophie or chat that you have with her down the road, she's taking into account all the answers that you provided in your onboarding. So she remembers who you are and what your pain points were, what you wanted the most support with. And she remembers that as you're working through certain issues.
Yep. And you have a place that you can store everything. If there's a resource or a tool or some piece of information that she gives you, you have your own dashboard. You can bookmark it. You can tag it. You could even see what other people have thought about that resource. So, hey, this was a really great podcast that I loved, right? There was this great midlife podcast that I was on, and I think it was great. So you can sort of thumbs up it, and then others in the community could have access to, wow, this really worked for somebody that was out there. So, which really gets to the other part of what we do. So it's not just the intelligence. The other piece that we felt was so important was the wisdom piece, the community
The
piece.
community piece. I was just going to say, oh my gosh, you're bringing community to AI. This is revolutionary.
It's one of those things you're like, well, I don't know why others haven't really gone there, but it's not that easy. And it really does require a design that's non-judgment values based. To have community work, you really have to be thinking about what's the purpose of this platform for it to really be helpful. And Pew Research just came out with a piece talking about, in addition to personalization, people really, especially now, given there's so much unreliable information, people want any form of their health information to be bounced off of peers. 67% of the people that were surveyed said they like to test and understand their health situation by chatting with a peer or understanding where they've been. It not only validates, hey, did that work for you? But it's like, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one with night sweats. Like, okay, you got through it. So we felt that community, especially for women, and the wisdom that they have to impart was so important. So that's the other part that we're excited to offer.
Brava to you. And
Thank you.
it's so interesting. It's making me think about an episode we just released recently about the feminine economy and what that means and how it works. And it involves a lot of collaboration and not a lot of competition, but working together, sharing ideas, resources, sharing opinions, sharing experiences. And by you bringing that onto this platform, it's automatically taking advantage of something that is so inherent to our nature. And also, to your point, I'm thinking about a personal example of something that I was interested in trying from a health perspective. I've been ruminating about this for 2 years, talking to ChatGPT, doing my own research, talking to experts. And I had one friend text me when she knew that I was interested in this and just told me, hey, I did that and it worked great for me. And I was like, that's all I needed to hear. I'm in. Like, it was after 2 years of research, and so there was other information, but it was the validation and the personal example from someone I trust that really finally made me take that step.
I love that story. I mean, I don't love that it took 2 years, but I love that because we had done all this research. To your point, we actually spoke to 1,000 women, and because we felt we don't know the answers and how women want to be served. I know my N of one experience, but in that conversation, what kept coming up was women really, really want to be seen, and they want to be understood, and they want to be able to share what they've learned. So I love that your previous podcast tackled that subject with more data, because I think that goes unappreciated sometimes. Women sometimes don't feel like they have the opportunity to compare notes. I know in work environments, it's really hard because there are not a lot of other women in the room. So giving women that opportunity to connect is exciting and just get validated and feel seen and feel supported.
Totally. I think that's so exciting that you're bringing this in. That's amazing. And I also wanted to ask you about the term that you used, human-centered AI. And maybe we've been talking around that a little bit, but tell me what that means.
Well, it's funny because a lot of people are using human-centered AI, but partly because there's so much concern that AI is dehumanizing people. It's sort of robotic. What we're using it is to say everyone is an N of one. Everyone is on their own path. We use N of one, which basically means we're all different. We have similarities, but the way I experience things and my life and my progression and my choices are unique to me. So Sophie and our platform is designed to approach you as an N of one. And that's what we mean by human-centered. We're using insights and resources that are available to broader sets, but they're brought to you based on what you need, not you looking at a bookshelf and picking out from what everybody else does. It's served up for what you need. So that's what we aspire to do with human-centered AI. And we think that that's valuable because who doesn't want to feel like it's being designed for them?
Yeah. And I mean, I'm just thinking about some personal experiences with chat and what other people have said. It does start to feel like you're talking to a non-robot when it does get more personal. So I can only imagine that that is amplified here in this case where this tool knows me so much better. I've provided it information, and the information that it's pulling from is so much more relevant to me versus every piece of research ever done ever on this topic.
Exactly. And life is so much more dramatic than the average of history. So when you think about chat and the large language models, they're like aggregating and taking averages of history and curving it up to you, and it becomes neutralized in a way. And what's going to happen tomorrow is most likely going to be more dramatic than the average of history. So I thought that was a great way to sort of understand why sometimes, um, to me, AI can feel like cotton candy. It just feels unsatisfying in terms of its ability to personalize. It tastes really good.
Well, I wish my kids thought it was unsatisfying.
Well, they still like cotton candy, probably.
But I know what you mean. All right, let me ask you about the skeptics out there. There are some people who don't want to use AI tools. Do you think that this tool could maybe bring them over? And what do you say to an AI skeptic?
I think there are a lot of valid concerns about AI. Going from environmental concerns, the fact that we are consuming an incredible amount of energy, all the way to how do we have controls and gates and how do we create a safe space. So for us, our values at the core of what we do is creating a safe space. And our belief is that if people feel that they're in a safe space and that they are not being used in a way to be monetized or to change something for someone else, that creates a different interaction than just a bland AI tool. So that's one. How do we create a trusted space? The second thing that we feel could get people to think about it is if people don't understand our needs, then they're not going to be able to serve us well, right? So the ability for us to model that for others, whether it's healthcare providers or financial services providers, if we can model, here's how women want to be served, here's the resources that they need, here's how they navigate these changes, then AI becomes a means to an end, not the end itself. So
It's not going to be for everyone, and that's okay. It doesn't need to be. But for those of us who are interested in using it, how do you think midlife women who are using this tool to help us navigate these certain transitions in life, how will our lives look different if we're using this tool versus not?
just think about what happens when you're navigating change or navigating a transition. It's confusing. There's so much information out there. So just taking the step to get clarity, if women can come on the platform and feel, wow, I have a much better sense of what some of the things that I might need to navigate that first next step, that's a victory. And the real world is not really offering that clarity. It's pretty confusing out there. The second piece is once we have clarity, then we have the ability to have more confidence. So what we're hoping to do is have women come on the platform, get some clarity around how are they going to navigate? What's the first next step that I can take? What are the things that I can do? How do I know more? And then think about a situation where Now I can go to my physician informed with the right set of questions. And that really does give you the confidence. And I think women really struggle with that, particularly in areas like finance, where we've seen women feel an amazing amount of shame. So even having that clarity that allows you to have the confidence to ask the questions and get what you need. And then confidence leads to agency. And that's really ultimately our objective, is how do we allow women to make those intentional choices? Not that we're going to tell you what to do or that we should, but really open the aperture so that you can make that choice intentionally. And that's where Meraki lives.
So I like what you're saying about confidence, and it's making me think of some research I just did, some very anecdotal research on midlife women. I was asking, what are your main pain points? And one woman said, I used to be so confident and I feel like I've lost my confidence. And so to be able to restore that for someone in this way, by providing information, clarity, connecting with other women in the same stage of life, is really hard to put a value on. So I'm glad that you're talking about it that way, and that that's how we can expect to feel after using your tool. So tell us, where is your tool in terms of development stage right now?
Yeah, we are really excited. We've been heads down developing it, and we had an alpha which gave us some sense of what was working and what wasn't. It's always fun to hear that. So this is our second round, which we're really excited. It's launching June 15th, and you can sign up on our website to be part of the beta at merakidignity.com. What we're asking is, as people join and participate, which we're eager to do, because it's a beta and because it's free, we're asking people to give us feedback. So there'll be opportunities in the process to just help us co-create it with you, because this isn't Meraki's product, it's all of our products. So
And that's Meraki dignity.com.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Wonderful. I'm excited. And I'm sure a bunch of my listeners can't wait to give it a try too. Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing to help all of us, the collective, and for sharing all of this with us today. I can't wait to give it a try.
Yeah, and right back at you. Thank you.